It's hot. Anyways, welcome back. It's your boy Tim back at it again with another vid today. And today I'm right back at the park. I started it all at, back when I used to live I keep putting my back there, back where them cribs at, back at this little brown lake. Second lake should be somewhere over there. But yeah, back here today, vibing, chilling, just getting ready for this next vid. Uh yeah, but we on to the message, you feel me? Today we talking about ministry and works, you feel me? Basically our spiritual job outside of our spiritual job, technically. You know what I mean? Like the things or really not, well, that, and also like what we should be doing on a regular basis, as believers, you feel me? So I'm gonna go ahead and get into that. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, share it with all your people so we can all have a good time, you feel me? And yeah, got my laptop right here. Uh with all my notes. Should be a short one today. Hopefully a little under like 20 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually go a little bit over. I got my talking points though, so we should be, you know, at least more compacted, at least, a little bit more, uh efficient. That's a good word to use. A little bit more efficient when it comes to these the messages. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So today we talk about ministry and works. That's basically like, you know, serving. That's also, what I mean, not just like works in the ministry, but also works outside of the ministry. So like what you should be doing like in your everyday life, but then also what you should be doing, you know, in the house, in the church, or just, when in whatever ministry you might be in, you know what I mean? So yeah, we're gonna start with Matthew chapter 20, verse 26 through 28. We're gonna go ahead and read that. Bet. So we're gonna start with 26. Uh Not so with you. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Um, so off rip, I know what you're thinking. You know what I mean? I hear a lot of, slave. I hear a lot of servant. Like, what's going on with that? I promise you, it's not what you think it is. You know what I mean? Slave, not meaning like, but slave meaning as in like, oftentimes the word slave in the Bible means someone who was paying off a debt. I learned that from my pastor, from the church that I go to. But also, with further thinking, I feel as if this side of the book is mainly talking about someone who is continuously working or working in the ministry. You know what I mean? With verse 28, it's basically comparing what we should be doing in the world with what the Son of God, also known as Jesus Christ, did. So the same way he spent all his life serving. Serve meaning performing duties or services for someone or something. Is the same way we should be serving. Now, in the same way as in us joining a ministry at a church, we might be attending or evangelizing out in the street. That type of serving. Uh, Also, to give more examples, what I mean, like serving as in like uh I'll do one like in the church, but then like one outside of church. So like serving as in like in church, maybe like ushering, maybe like being a deacon, maybe like being in the choir, helping out with the youth, what I mean, in the AV audio visual ministry. Uh Even somebody that's just like greeting. That's a way of serving in the church. But then also outside of the church, um somebody that volunteers with the food bank. That's a good one. Somebody that uh, helps out with kids outside of church. You know what I mean? Somebody that uh, dang, what's another one? Uh, hmm, why can I think of no? Oh, well, yeah, somebody that's like out in like fundraising or fundraising for different charity or like fundraising for different movements in life. You know what I mean? serve in that way. You know what I mean? So yeah. So why do we do it? I got the evidence. I got the reason why in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 through 10. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to that. So why do we do it? Verse 8, for it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast, so that no one could, you know, oh yeah, I did that, I did this, I did that. Not just, boastful thinking, not because of that. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. So that's the reason why. That's why we serve. That because God gave us, because God gave us the instruction to do so, but not to boast, but for the glory of, you feel me? Uh, these are things that He prepared for us to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, moving on. So how do we do it? I done gave some examples, but this is kind of like what it's saying in the Bible. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go ahead and go to First Peter chapter 4, verse 1 through 11. Oh my! Oh, what is going on? Oh, that's the wind doing that. That is crazy. Oh, come on. Sheesh. Come on. Is it overheating? Dang it. All right. So I think this junk might be overheating, bro. No. All right. But yeah. So yeah. Yeah, it's overheating. Oh wait, is it good? Hold on. Let me close it real quick and then come back. I think it might be overheating. Hold on. Oh, it was just glitching for some reason. Okay. All right. So we good. We back at it. I had to. Hey yo, it's crazy. But nah. So yeah, we back at First Peter chapter 4, verse 1 through 11. I don't know what was going on. I think it's because I have it out here in the heat. It's kind of, but yeah, it should be all good though. Uh, so bet. Matter of fact, now that that happened, let me try to move a little faster, just so it's not, just so it don't crash on me. But yeah, starting with verse 1. Therefore, since Christ suffered in His body, arm yourselves also with the same attitude, because whoever suffers in the body is done with sin. As a result, they do not live the rest of their earthly lives for evil human desires, but rather the will of God. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. They are surprised that you do not join them in their reckless, wild living, and they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give account to him. But they will have to give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to human standards in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the spirit. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind, so that you may pray. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, as one they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. Right? So when it says each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. So like if if you were born with the gift of singing, yeah, get in the choir, you know what I mean? Or make your own group or you know what I mean, solo if you will, you know what I mean? But if you know, if you were born with that gift, use it for the glory, you know, as faithful stewards of God. You know what I mean? Uh if you good at talking, or if you're somebody that or good at talking, but if you're somebody that you know is very talkative, if you're somebody that enjoys talking with others or talking to others, you know what I mean, you could do like the messages I'm doing now, or like you know what I mean, go to school to become a, or theology school to become a pastor, to then be able to do these sermons or speak to the youth. If you're good with kids, speak to the youth, make these smaller messages and you know teach the youth, you know, but for the glory of God. You know what I mean? Or if you're somebody that's good, or another job for somebody who's good with people is like, you know, ushering or greeting, or, you know what I mean? If you're good with technology and prefer something behind the scenes, audio visual ministry, you know what I mean? Somebody that's ducked off in the back, just controlling what's on the slides, controlling the, you know, if they, you know what I mean? Uh, what else? Um, what's another one? What's another one? Hospitality is another one. Not all churches have this, but I'm saying it. Well, not everybody has to have it, but like if you're somebody who's good with like hospitality, maybe serving coffee and a donut or coffee and a taco to somebody, you know what I mean, in the morning before church or after church, for serving for the glory of God. You know what I mean? You feel me? So let me go ahead and get to my notes. Yeah, and just to further think about this, right? So like, so just why do we do it? Just to, you know, so why do we do it? This is my notes. So, you know, a lot of what I'm saying is what I'm written down on the laptop. So, yeah, I think of this as kind of like how it was when I was in the band. It was cool to be a part of a team, or in this case, a band, and practice all summer for the very first game and see what comes to fruition after all that hard work. Whole time I was speaking about my story, and my phone ended up overheating and I didn't know it because I couldn't see the screen myself. That is crazy. So moved down to the shade, still by the lake, just you know, ducked off in this little area. Still got my laptop with me. Just gonna, you know, read off of what I got and then into here. Luckily we was at the end when I did that and not like right at the beginning. But anyways, I'm gonna keep so yeah. So just to further, you know, go into the why of why do we serve, right? I got a little, you know, got a part of my life story, you know, just to speak on it and how it correlates with, you know, what I mean. So yeah, for those of y'all who don't know, I used to be in the band. Uh, I kind of think of this as kind of like how it was when I was in the band. It was cool to be a part of a team, or in this case, a band, and practice all summer for the very first game and see what comes to fruition after all that hard work we did. From practicing the music to learning our sets to fully going through the run through of the entire show to then participating in the halftime show at the football games. What's significant about this part of my life and how this correlates with the subject at hand is that during marching season, not only did we participate in the football games, but we would also compete in contests. Uh, it was like these, like a whole bunch of bands from all across the city, sometimes outside of the city, would all meet up at this one stadium. And throughout the day, it was multiple, or throughout the first half of the contest, it would be multiple bands, uh, you know, performing their respective shows. And then the reason why we're competing is because the first half, the judges will come back and be like, okay, bet cool. This band get first, second, third, fourth. I think go all the way to like 10 placements. I think I might be wrong. 10 placements. And then though from there the 10, oh my god, and then from there the 10 bands will then compete in the second half to then see who got the first, second, and third placement. Uh, I think that was all the rewards that it was. I think it was first, second, third. I might be wrong, but either way, we was competing, right? And we was just, you know, what I mean, we was playing our shows and everything like that, right? So now how these usually work was that depending on what times we were supposed to perform, we would either witness some of the other bands perform, or we go right into running through our music and somewhat simulate our entire show. After that, uh, even any okay, so yeah, our entire show. After that, we would get ready to perform, and then eventually we would get ready to perform, and then eventually perform. Now, depending on what placement we got the first time, we would have to do that all over again. So, like I said, if you know that first time, if we end up if we ended up getting for 1 through 10 placements, we ended up going to the second half of the contest. If you didn't get any of those placements, you just got sent home. It's really, I think it's only been a few times that's happened to us, like where we didn't get. I think all the time I was there. I think that might have been my senior year where we didn't. I might be wrong, but yeah. So, but yeah, if you were to get between 1 or 10 placements, you would get sent to the second part of the contest, right? So yeah, uh, after the final performance, the rest of the bands that made it through would line up and wait for the overall placements. Now, the significance is this: the civic. Oh my God, the significance of this is that if you were to get a number one placement, you won the whole thing. So, like at the end, after the rest of the bands, after the 10 bands performed, if you were to get that first place placement, you got it. You know what I mean? I think it was, I forgot how they termed it, but it was basically one something. I forgot it was. But yeah, the number one placement is what I'm saying right now. First place, basically. Uh yeah, you won the whole thing. How that correlates to this message is that the same way we were endlessly practicing throughout the week, we will go over our music while simulating our steps, even the final run throughs before we will perform. This would ultimately lead to us getting number one placements. Now, think of it like this: us as believers should spend our lives serving and building our relationship with God. Think of this as the practice. Think of this life that we're in as the practice. What we're doing day in and day out at the in church or outside of church, you know what I mean, in our ministries, how we serving throughout our lives. Think of this as the practice, right? Uh, so on that day, when God calls us up and says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," that will be the number one placement that is earned. Amen. You feel me? You feel me? So yeah, yeah, uh, so yeah, when you think of, you know, when you think of whatever gift you might have been born with, whether that was singing, whether you were good with people, whether you were good with kids, you know what I mean? Think of that and then think of the different ministries that are in church and then join them. That's one of the ways that we serve. That's one of the ways that we serve, and that's that could ultimately lead. You feel me? So yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy the rest of this day. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that message. Hopefully that this resonated with y'all. Uh, I think yeah. Hopefully this resonated with y'all. And yeah, yeah. If it's anything that y'all need help understanding while y'all studying for yourselves, if it's anything that y'all need, if it's not necessarily in the Bible, but you need, some type of revelation for it. If you need, if anything, just let me know, and then I'll just go ahead, you know, see how I can make that more clear, or you know. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Enjoy the rest of this day. Uh, chill at this park for the one time again. Excuse me, and then yeah, hopefully y'all do too. Peace.